Hello students, welcome back to class. Now, for today, our first topic for this term will be the science lab safety rules. It is very crucial, it is very important to know the rules before we actually start going to the lab. Okay? Right, let's move on. Students, I know science is amazing, it's wonderful, but remember, safety comes first. Now, in this slide, you will notice there's a story. I will need you to read the story first and think what went wrong, what mistake did Alex make, and how he could have prevented the accident. So students, although science is fun, it's exciting, remember we need to follow the rules to stay safe so we can enjoy more science lessons. So now in these slides, on this page, it is showing you all the rules that you will need to remember and follow. Okay, first of all, you will need to listen to your teacher and the instructions given. You need to pay attention. Okay, second, you need to wear safety goggles and apron. This is to protect your eyes and clothes. You should never eat or drink in the lab. Okay, next, your workplace, your work area has to be clean and tidy. This can keep all of us safe. You should also handle all equipments and materials as well as the apparatus with care. This is to make sure we don't injure ourselves. Number 6, you should not touch any chemicals without gloves. You should ask your teacher before you touch anything. Number 7, if there is an accident, you should report immediately. Tell to the teacher right away. Do not keep quiet or hide. Number 8, always work in a group. Teamwork keeps everyone safe. You should keep your hands away from your face, your skin, and your eyes. This avoids the spreading of germs or contact of chemicals on your skin. And finally, clean hands, safe hands. You should remember all these rules before you go to the lab, while you are doing your experiment, as well as before you leave the lab. So students, this slide shows you the common lab apparatus that we will be using throughout this year. Okay, so these are the names that you should remember. This will ease you for the experiments that we'll be doing further on in later classes. Okay, the first one is the beaker, which holds the liquids. Whatever you need to measure, liquid measurement can be used in beaker as well. Besides that, number 2 would be the measuring cylinder. This can measure your volume of liquid accurately in comparative to beaker. Okay, thermometer, of course, all of you know, is to measure your temperature. Test tube is to hold small amounts of liquid for you to do your experiments. Now, what is test tube rack? Test tube rack is a place where you can hold all the test tubes that you need to do the experiment. It's a stand. Okay. Next is a dropper. It transfers small amount of liquid. Safety goggles is very important to protect your eyes to avoid splashes or spills. Next, an apron to protect your clothes. Okay. And funnel will help you to pour your liquid into a narrow container. Usually we use this for filtration purposes. And finally is an electronic balance to measure the mass. Okay, so you should remember all these names and how it looks to make it easy while you are handling your lab experiments later. Okay, students, before we move on further into the topic, I have a few questions for you. Now, number 1, which apparatus do you think is used to measure liquid volume accurately? Number 2, why should we wear safety goggles? What's the purpose of safety goggles? The third one, Why should you do? What should you do if a beaker is cracked? Okay, students, let's move on to the next part, which is the scientific measurement. So, what is scientific measurement? Scientific measurement is a process of finding the size, the amount, the temperature, mass, or even volume of an object using certain instruments. Okay, scientists use measurements to collect accurate data during the experiment or investigations. So, why is scientific measurement important? Why should we know scientific measurement? This makes our observations accurate. Scientific measurements helps the scientists to compare results and make experiments fair and reliable. For example, as we covered previously on variables. Okay, it also allowed others to repeat the experiment that we have done. In this slide, I have shown you the common measurements in what we will be using. For example, length. How do you measure length? Of course, by ruler. Okay, using centimeters. For mass, we use a balance, either unit of gram or kilogram. How about volume? We use measuring cylinder because measuring cylinder gives you an accurate results. Temperature, of course, all of you know it is a thermometer using unit degree Celsius. And finally, for time, we use a stopwatch. We use seconds or minute to measure the time. Students, you need to remember that reading measurement at eye level, it is very, very important to achieve the most accurate measurement. Okay, this is to avoid the parallax error. Look at the slide and you will see on your left there is a measuring cylinder. So you should always read the bottom of the meniscus. The correct eye level will be the first picture at the top. The reading will be 30 mm. If your eyes is above and it's too high, then the level of the looks will be higher than it really is. Or if it is too low, below the eye level, then of course your reading will be inaccurate. Okay, so we need to remember for accurate results in science, you need to read at eye level. Okay, before we end the lesson, I need to ask some questions. Let's see. First of all, which instrument measures temperature? What is the unit used for volume? Why should measurements be read at eye level? Which instrument measures mass? And finally, what is a normal human body temperature in degrees Celsius? Please get these answers and we will discuss it in class later on. Thank you.